Alright, it is Friday evening. I have completed my Friday evening shave with a $5 kit, and it is time for me to do some recording because today I'd like to try something new. Today I would like to discuss something in the matter of prose as opposed to simply singing something to you. But I'm not just going to be discussing my opinions on anything, but rather I'm going to be discussing folk music. Today I want to talk about something that I've noticed oftentimes happens when people enter the folk music world, which is that they call everything folk music Appalachian folk music. Today I wanted to dispel with that fiction, as Marco Rubio, the robot, must once have stated in a presidential debate. And I'm going to be doing all of this explanation in one take, with a smile on my face, as that is more reflective of my internal sunny disposition as opposed to the more gloomy appearance I had in my introduction video. And we're going to be discussing basically just kind of two things. The first is all of the different kinds of folk music that get accidentally grouped into Appalachian. And then the second thing we're going to discuss is how we're going to navigate that, given that we don't live just in the Appalachians and have no access to the outside world most of the time. And then similarly, if you live in the Piedmont or the West, then you probably have heard of Appalachian music and are similarly influenced by it. Maybe you are an Appalachian artist from California. Who knows? So that's what we're going to discuss today. So first, we'll take a quick breath there, and let's discuss all of the different kinds of folk music. So folk music is an interesting thing. If you look for definitions of it on something like Wikipedia, you're not often going to find things that are very useful because nobody knows what pop music is versus folk music in a very meaningful way. Someone once said, I believe it was Louis Armstrong, that all music is folk music because horses don't play music, it's folk. People play music. So what is folk music other than people music? So one way you could kind of differentiate folk music from other kinds of music is that they gain their popularity perhaps within the world of the common people as opposed to being created as a kind of high art. That was generally historically how we differentiated kinds of art. You had folk art and you had high art. High art would be stuff commissioned by kings to put in their palaces, and then folk art would be the stuff that we would all square dance to after mining coal or farming pigs and other such wonderful activities. So that's kind of what I'm going to be operating on. Folk music is found throughout the United States, and now the question is, what are the different kinds of folk music? So first, let's talk about the Appalachian folk music stage. Now, Appalachian folk music has gained a lot of popularity because of certain superstars of the genre, such as Tyler Childers, and then before him, Sturgill Simpson. And then I think the popularity of those two kind of created a system where everyone thought, well, if you kind of sound like them, you must be a part of Appalachian music. Now, obviously, Tyler Childers himself would identify himself as a country artist. However, that's, I believe, kind of the origin of that idea. With that said, one example of how people kind of get confused on this subject would be Oliver Anthony, who was becoming very popular from that one song Richmond North of Richmond, but has gained a very big following, illustrating he's not just a one-hit wonder because he's got lots of other songs too. One of which is called Doggone It. I'll try and perform it for you and ask you, what kind of folk music is this? Lord, my head's been hurting, my back's been aching, the water's drying up and there's a war in the making. People eating bugs cause they won't eat bacon. Doggone it. So that was again his song Doggone It. Is that Appalachian folk music? A lot of people have called him Appalachian folk music, but he himself has said that he's not Appalachian. Rather, he comes from the Piedmont area. And that's kind of the source of this kind of association, then leading to people all being labeled as Appalachian, when there's in fact quite a lot of different folk music. By the way, if you're hearing something unusual up there, that's a blind bee. It's called a carpenter bee. You get a lot of those in the area in which I live, but they're blind, so they just kind of hang around in unuseful areas for a long time looking for wood to carve into. So he's kind of an interesting pet that comes around kind of in the spring or summertime. Anyways, Oliver Anthony is Piedmont music, and in fact, he would be more identified perhaps with Piedmont folk music, and then there's a kind of folk music that is more associated with Piedmont, also called Piedmont blues. And that's this kind of sound. What kind of defines that is a few things. There's the bum 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 bass kind of Johnny Cash style, and then additionally there's the mimicking of roles that you would find in kind of ragtime type music with this kind of. But then also there's kind of those blues stylings, those blue off notes, or those blue notes. So that's kind of the first kind of folk music here, is you've got the Piedmont area. And the Piedmont, to be clear, is east of the Appalachians. Then you've got the Appalachians itself. And this is kind of an interesting subject. Are you Appalachian just because you're from that region? Or is Appalachian music a specific style? I would associate with Appalachian music something more like this. In a recent video of mine, I recorded this song. Trouble, trouble, trouble on my mind. If trouble don't kill me, I'll live a long time. And I associate it with the banjo, the mountain banjo, things like that, because that's kind of the popular instrument of that time, less the guitar. So then you got people who kind of just play any kind of soulful folk music, and then people point and say, wow, another Appalachian star rising out of the Appalachians. Even though they might be east of the Appalachians, maybe west, maybe south. So that's another one that I want to talk about. You've got the Piedmont, you've got Appalachia, and then you've got south of Appalachia in Mississippi, you've got Delta blues. And so that's kind of this sound. Let's get that ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. And I don't have one on me, but they often use a slide. So the slide has that like, and really adds a kind of intensity to it. So Robert Johnson, I believe, was the name of one of the prominent ones who actually popularized that style. So very much a distinctive style and not just Appalachian. One other kind of style that I've been told is similar to Piedmont blues is one song of mine that kind of goes like this. Anyways, that's the instrumental part. So you've got Piedmont, Appalachian, Delta, and you go further west, then what do you have? Well, you've got plains music, you've got Oklahoma plains music, etc. There's the Oklahoma Dust Bowl catastrophe that resulted in the rise of Woody Guthrie, for instance, or at least he was associated with the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma. And so you've got songs that are kind of very much that old folk song that we kind of associate with America generally. Some kind of leaf or something fell on my banjo. Anyway, so you got that song, Ship in the Sky. It goes, my daddy rides that ship in the sky. My daddy rides that ship in the sky. He's not afraid and neither am I, 'cause my daddy rides that ship in the sky. So I sounded a little off key there, but you kind of get the idea. It's that very simple, almost like kid's song kind of a style. And then you've got cowboy music, and that's also a kind of folk music, because cowboys are folk too. The coyote is a survivor, I reckon he's got to be. He lives in the snow at 40 below, or in Malibu by the sea. And I'm just an old cowpuncher, I love to listen to his tune. As I get high on a bottle of rye, the coyote gets drunk on the moon. So that's also a unique kind of folk music. So why do I say all this? Well, it's because of the fact that if you look at all of these different labels, really, they help you to identify different styles. And those different styles can help you to explore new music. If you all call it all Appalachian music, you'll forget about cowboy music, Delta music, Piedmont music, and I believe that that could be a disservice to many talented artists from those regions. But then additionally, here's one last point that I wanted to share with you. We don't really need these labels. These labels are useful for finding music, but then as an artist, you're likely getting influences from all over. And so to identify you by your state or your land region is not necessarily the primary thing that identifies you. So that's the last thing I wanted to leave you with. There's great folk musicians doing all sorts of styles all across America, and they do it in various styles that you can identify kind of by their originating landscape, but by much else as well. With that said, till I once again decide to make a prose video, I hope you enjoyed this one, and thank you very much for watching. Now, one last thing before I conclude. I've been told that you can only get clicked on in YouTube if you make a silly face. I suppose that's kind of the rubric for how you decide which video you watch. You go on to YouTube and then you see which of these has the silliest face. So I'm going to title the video something kind of inflammatory, like "Stop Calling It Appalachian Folk Music," and then this is going to be the thumbnail. I'm going to get real close to you here, and I'm going to put this on my shoulder, and I'm going to go, Something inquisitive, maybe. I like it. I'll try something like that. Thank you very much for watching.